Hi, my name is Gabe Denecker, and the title of my speech is The Catholic View of Peace, Just War, and the Brotherhood of Humanity. On January 1st, 2020, on the 53rd anniversary of World Peace Day, Pope Francis explained that peace is a journey of hope in the face of obstacles and trials. It may seem strange that I would frame a speech for a Mennonite audience with the words of the Catholic Pope, but my goal today is to share that, despite the fact that the history of the Catholic Church has included challenges of war, at its core, the Church's message is one of peace rooted in the brotherhood of humankind. First, I would like to explain that I am a cradle Catholic and I attend church with my family on a weekly basis, even during this time of COVID-19 when church is televised mass watched from the family couch. Throughout my life, my parents and my church have instilled in me that my role is to serve others and to thank God in all things. I appreciate that Bluffton University is a welcoming faith environment and has always respected my Catholic values. Through classes, readings, and conversations on campus, I have learned more about and grown in my understanding of the Mennonite faith. I've also been encouraged to share my views and explore my Catholic faith more deeply. So what is the Catholic stance on peace and war? And what does this mean for a Catholic at a Mennonite university? In this speech, I will share three core elements of the Catholic view of peace. I will briefly explain the just war theory, provide an example of an application of the just war theory, and close with some thoughts on peace from Pope Francis. My goal is to demonstrate to you that Catholics, like Mennonites, want to live with hope and peace and not live in fear of the violence of war. Point number one, just war theory. In the 5th century, St. Augustine was one of the first people to articulate a philosophical statement on war and justice known as the just war doctrine. In his theory, St. Augustine stated that peace should be the objective of your desire. War should be waged as only a necessity, in order that peace may be obtained. In other words, war is not keeping with the will of God. Others within the Church build on St. Augustine's foundation, so that today, just war theory, as taught in the Catechism of the Church, states that in order for a war to be just, the following has to happen. The damage inflicted by the aggressor on the nation or community of nations must be lasting, grave, and certain. All other means of putting an end to it must be ineffective. There must be serious prospects of success. The use of arms must not produce evils and disorders graver than the evil to be eliminated. The power of modern means of destruction weighs very heavily in evaluating this condition. In the 1980s, U.S. Catholic bishops listed just cause when innocent lives must be protected as one reason to go to war. Other reasons include comparative justice when critical values are at stake, and last resort when peaceful alternatives have already been exhausted. It is pretty safe to say, in order for Catholics to endorse war, it has to be an absolute last resort. Point number two, an application of the just war theory. How does just war theory work in practice? The war in Afghanistan, which was triggered by the 9/11 attacks on the U.S., can be used as an example. Shortly after 9/11, President George W. Bush decided to go to war with Afghanistan in order to destroy al-Qaeda and the Taliban, who had claimed responsibility for the attacks. The authorization for war was stated in a brief 60-word document that gave the president the power to use all necessary and appropriate force against nations, organizations, or persons he determines planned, authorized, committed, or aided the terrorist attacks that occurred on September 11, 2001, or harbored such organizations or persons in order to prevent any future acts of international terrorism against the United States by such nations, organizations, or persons. Initial reaction among Catholics was mixed. A few days after the first strike in Afghanistan, Cardinal Francis George of Chicago issued a statement that said, "This is a just war." In contrast, Father Michael Baxter of Notre Dame University was against the decision. Baxter recalls that on the day of the attack, several thousand students and staff gathered to pray on campus for the dead and wounded. Baxter, a pacifist, believed the circumstances did not warrant an attack on Afghanistan, but he sees the usefulness in just war theory to discuss such decisions. According to Baxter, Christians are not called to take up arms against and kill others. Likewise, Lisa Sol Cahill, a social ethicist from Boston College, agreed. She stated, I don't think that it is really a just war until it is over and done with and all the information is out. Cahill's words demonstrate a complication of just war theory. Can a determination be made until after the fact? This question is relevant when it comes to Afghanistan. As Russell Shaw of the Arlington Catholic Herald points out, when the United States and its allies went into Afghanistan, they had the support, quiet but real, of Pope John Paul II and the Holy See. However, while Catholic leadership saw the war with Afghanistan as just in preventing more loss of innocent life through terrorism, America's later invasion of Iraq did not meet the standards of just war. At that point, the Pope and Catholics worldwide strongly and publicly opposed the war in Iraq. Furthermore, according to Shaw, the U.S. failed in its execution of just war in Afghanistan by not keeping its focus and ending the war in a timely manner. To that point, as recently as January 3, 2020, a U.S. drone strike killed Qassam Soleimani, the commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, a U.S. designated foreign terrorist organization. This suggests that the U.S. no longer knows who its actual enemy is in the Middle East, and the authorization for use of military force, or AUMF, that was begun by the Bush administration, carried through the Obama administration, and still at play in the Trump administration, demonstrates that just war that originally began in Afghanistan is no longer occurring and cannot be supported under Catholic teaching. Point 3. Pope Francis' thoughts on peace. While Catholic philosophy includes some reasoning that supports war, Pope Francis has continued to spread a message of peace each year, and in particular has focused that message on the brotherhood of humanity. He writes that migrants and refugees are willing to risk their lives on a journey that is long and perilous to endure hardships and sufferings. They do this in order to find somewhere to live in peace. The Pope wants to make sure that Catholics are welcoming to new people who enter a country. Furthermore, Catholics support politics that respect and promote life. As Catholics, we believe it is our responsibility as humans to care for one another. In his 2019 World Peace Day message, Pope Francis explained that every war is a form of fratricide. In other words, we kill our brothers and sisters in Christ when we go to war. We are born to care for one another, not harm one another. Pope Francis reiterated his thoughts on not wanting to go to war in his 2016 World Day Prayer of Peace message. We have heard the voice of the poor, of children and the younger generations of women, and so many brothers and sisters who are suffering due to war. With them, let us say with conviction, no to war. As I stated in the beginning, Bluffton University has welcomed my Catholic faith from my very first day on campus. While Catholics and Mennonites will probably never completely agree on nonviolence issues, they can learn from and with each other just as I and others have done at Bluffton University. In his essay, Literature, Nonviolence, and Nonviolent Teaching, Bluffton professor Jeff Gundy writes, I believe that Christians are called to nonviolence and hope to persuade my students and the rest of the world to agree. Although Catholics do see cause for war in extreme cases, the Church teaches that the desire for peace lies deep within the human heart, and we should not resign ourselves to seeking anything less than this. On this point, I think that Catholics and Mennonites can agree.